What's up, beautiful people? It's your boy J to the O to another J to the O. Yours truly, Jojo, and welcome back to another episode on this channel. Now, on this channel, I do lifestyle videos, reaction videos, as well as talk about business and money, and I also share my experience living right here in China. Before we get right into it, a big shout out to all my subscribers, my returning viewers, my new viewers, and to my newest subscribers. Welcome to the family. Thank you all for showing me love on my last episode. Let's get right into it. Today we are talking about living in China and what you should expect or what you should know before coming to China now that the restrictions have been lifted. Now, if you've been following what's going on in China, you would know that the restrictions have been lifted and life right now here is back to normal. So if you're coming to China for the very first time, these are some things that you should know. I'm going to break it down into 4 or 5 simple things that you should know, things that you should have. So let's get right into it. The first thing that people normally ask me is it safe? Okay, now that the restrictions have been lifted, whatever that they've heard and all that, is it safe to move to China? Yes, it is 100% safe to move to China, whether you're an African or non-African. It is safe to move to China. It is safe to come to China to study, because most Africans that do come here are people who come to study most of the time, to do their masters, to do their bachelors and all that. So yes, it is safe because here security also is 100%, because you can literally walk to your house at 3 a.m. in the morning and it's still safe. Right, people go to the club, people go places, and they come home really late, and you would not hear anything negative or bad that happened to them whilst they were coming home. It doesn't happen, or let me say, really doesn't happen. In most cases, it doesn't happen. So yes, it is safe to come to China. Safety here is 100%. Now, if you're an African, if you're a foreigner, if you are, let's say, European or anything of that sort, something that you should have on your phone. Let me say some applications that you should have on your phone. Now, I'm sure you've heard these things countless times, right? You should know that foreign applications such as WhatsApp, such as Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these do not work until you have a VPN. So before you come to China, make sure you have a VPN on your phone. It could be a free VPN or a paid VPN, right? I usually prefer to go for the paid one so that it's faster, it's secured and all that. So you should have a VPN which will help you to be able to get on these applications, right? Or you could come with your SIM card that you have back home, right? Because when you have your SIM card from back home, you just put it on roaming, and then you will be able to use these applications, right? So that's that. You should know that you're going to be using more of WeChat when you're here. You'll be using more of WeChat when you're here than WhatsApp. That is if you don't have the VPN. And obviously, when you make more friends here, you'll be using more of the WeChat. Now, another thing is, let me say number 3, moving on to, now let's get right into more details with how life is actually, okay? These are things that you should have on your phone, right? Later on, I'll give you some tips on, if you're a student, how to survive, how to make money and all that. I'm gonna give you a few tips in that. So first thing you will realize is the cultural shock, okay? There's a lot of cultural shock, and the way things are done here and the way things are done back where you are, totally different things. Like, for example, let me say living in China, okay, and living in Ghana, because I'm from Ghana, so you don't really see people spitting around like a lot, okay? You don't really see people spitting a lot around. So if you're in China, you should expect that once you're outside on the streets, sometimes even when you're on the subway, some people do that, and so something you would have to get used to. Okay, and another thing is food. Let's talk about food. Now, most people would think that you probably be eating usually rice and noodles, but there are lots of Chinese food that you can try out. You have the hot pot, you have they do have barbecue, there's rice, there's noodles, there's a whole lot, okay? And if you're wondering, will I be able to, cook some food for myself if I don't want to eat Chinese food? Because I know lots of African friends or foreign friends who prefer to cook, right, rather than to eat the Chinese food, because that's what they crave for. That's what sits well with them in their stomach and all that. Okay, so yes, there's a market. There's a wet market. You can go to the malls. You can buy so many things because you have international products also right here in China. So you will be able to cook the food that you used to. Some of the food that you're used to back home where you are. Although the ingredients might be a little bit different, some of the ingredients, so you would have to compromise, okay? Now we've done food. Next one will be transportation. Now, if you're African and you're coming to China, you should know that transportation here, okay, regardless of whether you're using the bus or the subway. Now, they run on a certain time, right? For example, if there's a subway that runs at 8, it's going to be there by 8:05, and let's say you want to catch that train, you have to be there on time because it's not going to wait for you. The same thing for the bus. Now, transportation is really affordable. It's really affordable as compared to, let's say, back home where I come from. It's really affordable. So transportation is also another thing that you should look at, especially when you're here new, okay? If you're here new and then you don't know anyone, I will suggest one of the apps that you should have on your phone will be a Didi app, right? Which is kind of like an Uber. Because when you get here and you don't know anyone or there's no one coming to pick you up, trust me, the taxi drivers are gonna know and they will charge you exorbitant prices or fares. And you probably realize that later on when you've gotten used to the system. Okay, so you should have that at the back of your mind. Now, cost of living. Let's talk about cost of living. Cost of living in China. It depends on where you find yourself. For example, if you're in Shanghai, Shanghai is a first tier city, so things are expensive. Mostly the first tier cities, cost of living there is kind of like expensive as compared to the other cities. Let's say third tier, second tier, So cost of living there will be a little bit higher. Renting an apartment there will be a little bit higher. So it varies, okay? For example, I'm in Wuhan, so what I pay for a month for an apartment is around $500 right, per month, right? Which, as compared to Shanghai, it's cheap because in Shanghai you probably pay more, okay? So buying food, also not so expensive, but it depends on what you would want to buy or what you want to eat, okay? If you want to always go in for the KFC, McDonald's, and Burger King, you will get all that. But comparing those to, the local Chinese food, local Chinese food is always a little bit cheaper as compared to that. But it all depends on your preference, right? So what else do we talk about? How to be able to, enjoy your stay or enjoy yourself whilst you live here is you would have to know the language. If you're a student, if you're coming in as a student or you're coming in as a worker, knowing the language helps you to break that gap between, that cultural gap where you cannot express yourself because you speak English and if you happen to be with someone who doesn't understand the English, then you would find yourself wanting, right? So learning the language is really, really important, because once you know the language, it helps you to overcome so many things, right? If you've been watching my videos, you would know that learning the Chinese language is really important, because you're living here, and when you look around everywhere, you have Chinese characters. So you would have to learn the language so that you would be able to, find things a little bit easier. Now, would you be able to live in China without knowing the language? Absolutely. But knowing the language makes things easier for you, because you can express yourself. The downside about knowing the language is now you get to know whatever they're saying when they're gossiping about you, especially if you're an African, the way they look at you. I'm going to get right to that part as well. The way they look at you, some of them, or let me just say most of them, look at you. The gossip, if you can understand it, now that's the bad side about learning and knowing the language, because they probably might make some discriminatory comments about you on the subway or outside. And that's the downside of, about knowing the language. Okay, so if you know the language, it's good, and if you don't know the language, also it's good, depending on how you want to look at it. If you ask me, I would say knowing the language is good, and it's going to help you. Now that we've talked about the language, experience as an African. Okay, my experience as an African living right here in China, the bad, I would say, outweighs the good, because like I said, are you going to experience discrimination? Yes, you are going to experience discrimination, but you are also going to meet really wonderful Chinese people that will make you feel at home, and in a way make you forget the negative part. Okay, but yes, you are going to experience discrimination, because recently I had someone from nowhere just send me a text message, just saying all sort of things, using the N-word and all that on my WeChat channel. So that's that. You're going to experience that. Most of those people are, if you ask me, I'd say most of those people who behave that way are a little bit ignorant and not prepared to be open-minded to foreigners, especially Africans who are in their country, right? But that said, you will meet really nice Chinese people who will make you enjoy your stay. They will treat you like they're their own, right? Because they understand that if they treat you well, definitely sometime you're going to meet some people back home in your country, and you are also going to be obligated to treat them well. Okay, so that's that. Now the tip: if you are a student that you're coming to China, whether you're a student or whether you're coming here to look for work and all that, certain skills that you should know, right? There are certain skills that you should know. For example, if you're a student and you know how to cut hair, if you're a barber, if you have that skill, you can use that to make some money, right? If you're a hairdresser, yes, you can also use that to make some money on campus, because you can braid hair, you can cut hair, so you can make some coins, you can make some change, right? And another thing that you should know as a student is you will not be able to work unless you have, let's say, the school that you're attending. They should be able to give you a note that says that we are aware of this student's situation. He's working, he's doing volunteer work, right? It's more like you're volunteering to do a teaching job or anything of that sort. But then your school is supposed to give you a document to back you. That's the only way. If you're working as a student without that document, that is illegal. And if you're caught, or when you're caught, then you will find yourself in some trouble that you would not want. So as a student, if you do get that document, then you're good to go. Because when I was in school, I knew a few African students that had that document, and so they were able to work without having to worry about police issues and all that. So another thing is So another thing also that I forgot to mention was that if you're living in China and let's say you're not a student, or you're a student and you're living outside campus, right? Once you get an apartment, I mean, you have to carry your passport with you just in case. Your passport is more like your ID, right? So you will need your passport to go everywhere, okay? Now, if you get an apartment, you have to make sure that you go to the nearest police station, like your local police station, to register, okay? And you would have to renew that every single year. Because once you renew your contract, you have to go there and tell them I renewed my contract, and so they will be notified, or they would know that you're still at that place. Okay. The censorship here also is another thing, but you get used to it. You get used to it. And what else haven't I said? I think I covered pretty much everything. But if you have any questions, if you would want to know more, if you're living in China and there's something I didn't touch, you can just let me know right here in the description box below. Let me know what you guys think about this video. I'll see you all in my next episode. It's your boy J to the O to another J to the O. Yours truly, Jojo, and I'm out. Peace.